When I show that I can take care of what I have, I will be given more. There's so much conversation, especially in the coaching world, of like more. Yeah, but can you handle what you have? It can be hard to welcome more or welcome your potential with your finances, because there can be a very deep part of you that feels like you can't even handle it. So why would you welcome more? Hello, my gorgeous. Welcome to another episode of Natalia Benson, the podcast. It feels so good to say that. It has been a little while since I have recorded a solo episode. And like I shared with you, angels, a couple episodes back, that every other month we'll do solos and then we'll have guests. And that's basically the cadence we've worked into with this new iteration of NB the podcast. And it's so good to be back. I'm really excited to record this episode today. I actually, once again, have the great honor of having my Zoom audience, so to speak. So I've got some babes in here who are listening in as I record this episode. I did that a couple months ago and it was really fun. And also for you angels who really enjoy the podcast, it's a cool way for you to get a sneak peek of upcoming episodes. And especially for me as like a Mani-Gen and an Aries, accountability is really major for me. So if I know, okay, my babes are tuning in at 3 PST and I've got to be on and ready, then I'm going to be on and ready. So thank you to my loves once again for being in the room with me. So today we are going to be talking about a pretty powerful topic, which I am very excited to get into. So the reason I felt so called to even talk about money shame is because I have such a great blessing of knowing so many powerful women. I feel so grateful for that. I feel like in all of the changes and all of the things that have been going on in my life, I feel so seen, guided, and protected. And most of all, guided, because I just have the most magnificent women in my circle. And I also, from doing a lot of business masterminds and just meeting other women in business and meeting other women in entrepreneurship, I learn a lot. I think the thing we have to remember is that no matter how, it's so important, and this has taken me like a really long time to figure out, it is so important not to pedestal people. I used to have a really big habit of this, especially in seasons and chapters of my life where I felt like I wasn't where I wanted to be or I wasn't stepping into my potential. And I was actually listening to something this morning on the Pattern app about being a Capricorn rising. And I'm loving that app lately. I actually listen to it a lot. And it's been, I think, just like Time Passages, like those are my two favorite astrology apps. And I learned so much from those apps. And I was listening about being a Capricorn ascendant. And I was like, oh my God, the perfectionism and the comparison is such a shadowy aspect of Capricorn energy, and a very shadowy aspect of the Capricorn ascendant where you compare yourself to people and compare yourself to people's progress. That's been a really like painful part of my life at different junctures of my journey, so to speak. I would say it is much less prevalent now. And in the next episode, I'm going to tell you why. That'll be the episode that records next, but that you angels will hear once you hear this recording. It'll come out in 2 weeks. And I'm going to tell you why I feel that part of my personality is dissipated so much. It's probably not what you expect, but it's powerful. And I'm excited to share why. It's interesting. But long story short, we all experience shame. It doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter where in the journey you are of your potential. Pretty much all of us experience shame, and it's important to not pedestal, because you never know the full and complete story of like what is going on in someone's life. And I feel like especially on social media, when it can be such a highlight reel, we can so easily forget that people have so many nuances and things going on in their lives. And so I just wanted to add that in there, because having shame around money is something that no matter how much money or how little money you have, I have mentored women who have a lot of money, and they can have just as much shame about that as women who do not have a lot of money and have a lot of actual scarcity going on in their lives. And I share this because money is so emotional. And taking it to the astrology for a moment, the second house is our seen relation when it comes to money. That's the Taurian expression of money in our lives. The eighth house is the unseen relation to money, the shadow aspect. And I talked about this in an episode a couple episodes back, but if you go to my Instagram, I have a post that I pinned called How to Decode Your Unique Money Access According to Your Astrology. And in there, I go a little bit more in depth about the second house and how it's your conscious relationship to money, your eighth house, and how it houses all your unconscious programs and patterns around money, and how you can actually look and decode your unique money access. And then there is a link. If you comment RX, there actually is a link on that post that's pinned, and you can get free access to a really, really powerful Venus retrograde masterclass that I taught on this topic. So I'm not going to go like too deeply into it right now. Plus, I get into so much more nuance, not only in the post, but most of all in that masterclass. And it's a great class to take, and it's yours to keep. So you basically just comment RX on that post. And then I think it's about an hour long. And I talked to you about like my methodology around money astrology. And you also can learn a bit about MWMM if that's ever something. That's my money and astrology membership. If you're ever interested in working with me more deeply, that masterclass is really powerful because it can give you a taste of how I teach this stuff. So speaking of Instagram, I do want to speak into something because I made a pretty powerful post yesterday about me saying goodbye to astrology. And what I am doing is I am saying goodbye to an old expression of how I teach and share astrology, especially on Instagram. I'm evolving, I'm changing. I have different things that I want to say. I'll be honest, I feel so much more expressed on the podcast. I've actually found myself, and this isn't Instagram's fault. This isn't the algorithm's fault. This is, my own process, but I found myself feeling like pretty boxed in on Instagram, really feeling like I can't branch out. And that's something I put on myself because I get I'm just being really honest, but it's like I get afraid to lose community. I get afraid to lose people who find me and they think I'm going to do one thing. And I think what I realized is that's okay. I'm evolving and I can't stay in one iteration just because people want it from me. I'm here to serve, but I'm also here to serve through my own growth path. And that's the only thing for me. If I can have a little baby rant for a second about IG and the algorithm, etc., is I see what it takes to be successful on Instagram these days. And I just don't know that it totally suits my personality style. So I'm willing to evolve with it. I'm willing to explore and grow and change and sharpen my skills and evolve with the platform. But I will say, honestly, I just so much more deeply value being a freaking human. I'm not a niched person. I definitely can speak in a niched way, depending on what it is that I'm teaching or offering. But that's one reason I think I just really appreciate the spaciousness that I have through the podcast and through YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, because I just feel like there's so much more nuance available in long form content. And I just feel like that nuance is just I think there's a way to express it through Instagram. I'm figuring out how to do that, but I've been on IG for like 13 years or something like that. It's been a while, or I don't know. I always mess up that number. It's been a long time, maybe 12 years. And it's, of course, just like anything, it's going to evolve and change. And I wanted to share that post like I'm saying goodbye, because I am saying goodbye to a really big aspect of astrology that most astrologers do. And I don't know what's next, to be honest. I've done this multiple times in my life and in my work. Specifically, you babes remember, if you've been with me on the pod for a while, a year ago, I said goodbye to doing the podcast, and it was freaking scary. Like, I was scared, but my sacral, this is where I don't know a ton about human design, but what I do know and what I learned about human design, it always really speaks to me. I only really know about being a 1-3 Manny-Gen, by the way. That's basically all I know, and a little bit about the types. But what I will say is just, when I was stepping away from the podcast last year, I just knew with everything in me that it was time to go, that I was completely done with the old expression. I needed space so that I could reinvent what it is that I'm doing. And now it's so magnificent, because returning to the podcast now is so, it feels remarkable to me. And I'm so grateful to be back. But when I get that sacral like turn off, I know that I have to listen to that. And that's really where I've gotten with my current expression with Instagram and with my astrology work there. I'm just like, I'm sure I'll still keep some of it, but I really don't know right now. And again, that's scary. It's not fun to like even admit that, to be honest, but I'm doing something really special right now where I'm giving away my astrology mini course, where basically I'm teaching you how to be your own astrologer. And at this moment, I checked it a little while ago and I was like, holy crap, there's like 3,000 comments on there. I don't know how much of that is actually translating to babes joining and getting the free course, but it was potent. I had a moment yesterday where I was like in really deep fear for a second, and I had to like drop to my knees and just talk to God universe. And I was like, am I giving up on something that is important for me? But I just heard this subtle voice within me just say, trust yourself. Like, you've done this a million times. It's part of your growth and evolution as a person and as a creator on this earth and through your work. So I know it can be scary to say goodbye to something that you think people expect from you, but being true to myself, even if it makes my community smaller, that's okay. I would rather be understood and connective and in service to the people whom I can truly serve from a place of embodiment. And if I'm being honest, where I've come from with a lot of my work with astrology, not so much the astrology and personal finance, that's continuing on in full force, but just sort of teaching general astrology. I feel like I've always kind of done that because I just felt like it's what I should do. And I feel a little out of integrity because I'm always talking to my women about not shoulding and don't do the shoulds. And meanwhile, on a really unconscious level, I've been shoulding how I do astrology and how I show up on Instagram so that people don't leave. And now I'm like, well, I'm leaving this. So anyone who does leave or doesn't resonate, that's okay. So I guess I share this too to give you permission, because I think we can be so scared to let ourselves evolve. And I'll be honest, I'm definitely like nervous. I don't have this all figured out in this moment. I feel a little more in the messy middle, but the more permission I give myself to just be expressed and to clunk around a little and figure it out is so exciting to me. And that's honestly how I figured out everything, including financial organization, which is what we're going to talk about in this episode. So very simply, I want to walk you through like how to get financially organized. And I'm going to give you just like the first 3 steps that I teach inside of MWMM, because what I find is that The reason why money can feel so sticky and so crappy, frankly, it's usually just because we're not organized. And a lot of us have a very avoidant relationship with our finances. And when we have an avoidant relationship with money, money feels like a burden. It feels chaotic. It doesn't feel good. When we have like a regulated, organized, and even energetic and tactical relationship with our finances. And what I mean by energetic is like when we are energetically relating to money and understanding that we are in energetic relation with every single thing. I'm going to talk about this in the next episode, but I've been doing some extremely deep, intense inner work, which has led me to feel more connected to God. And I never used to say that word, but to the universe, whatever word feels good for you. I say God, sometimes I say higher power, sometimes I say universal intelligence or creator. But with Chiron transit and sitting on my sun, I was very open about that the other month, that like I was having an extremely challenging time. I mean, I was just on the floor in like hysterics because you angels know I lost my daddy last year. It's almost been a year since my dad died. I got divorced at the beginning of the year, and I've gone through a lot of changes and a lot of getting really brutally honest with myself about stuff. So what I'll say is like the energetic relationship that I've realized I'm having with everything is literally given this spaciousness for God universe to course through my life, including my finances. Because one thing I got honest with the universe about is I was like, I feel like you can't handle my relationship with my finances. And based on my track record with men, I feel like you can't handle that either. And the message was like, actually, I can handle that if you hand it over a bit more and trust me. And when I look at the herstory or history of my life, I actually look and see that every time I've been out of control, meaning I'm not trying to control everything from a place of fear, and I'm trusting what I'm drawn to, and I'm in surrender, that strengthens the energetic relationship that I have with every freaking thing, including money. And I don't know if that resonates, my loves, or if what I even just said made any gosh darn sense, but it's like, I guess the reason I bring that forward before we dive into this conversation is that I think what happens so often is we don't hand over the things we're in fear about. We don't hand over the things that we're in shame about, which is the lowest vibrational emotion that we can have as human beings, supposedly on that like rainbow spectrum of emotion. I think shame is the lowest. And it's interesting because like when we're in shame with anything, we have lost our creative power. And when we are in resonance with our creator or with our deeper knowing that we are powerful creative beings and of source energy, then we can apply that creativity to every area of our lives, including finances, including your biggest problems, including the biggest question marks that you have. So I want to offer that because my journey with finances and my journey with money has been a journey. It still is a journey. It's an imperfectly beautiful relationship that I have. And I'm willing more and more and more to have a deeper energetic relationship with money, because when I do, then I have the available energy to do the harder tactical stuff that I don't want to do and I get resistant about. And now that's, if I'm, of course, transparent, my loves, that's just not a part of my life anymore. I have such organization that it doesn't matter how much money I'm making. I know exactly what my money is doing. We are in intimacy together. We have an intimate, energetic, respectful friendship. And I want you to have that. And I feel like maybe you're listening to this episode for a reason. I hope it helps you, it supports you. Send it to someone who you think could be served by it. Because when we tactically relate to money just as much as energetically, that's where the unlock is. We feel powerful. Financial organization feels good. It just feels good. When you feel organized, like imagine you're sitting at your desk and there's a trash heap on your desk, and it's really hard to type on your computer because there's a heap of trash there and it smells. That's not fun, right? But when you clean the trash, you light a candle, you use some nice little organic cleaner and you clean everything off. You've got a picture of your love or your dog, and you just have beauty around you. You can work on your computer. Like, you can feel viscerally the energetic difference between those two things. Organization, clarity, and care just feel better. And when we are in organizational relationship with our money, we feel unstoppable. We feel unstoppable. We feel like we could push over a car if we wanted. Not that we want to do that, but it's like we feel unstoppable. And then something that I believe very deeply, and I've seen this in my life, is that when I show that I can take care of what I have, I will be given more. And that's something that I really like to talk about, because I think in the online space, there's so much conversation, especially in the coaching world, of more. Yeah, but can you handle what you have? Are you caring for it? Care for what you have. Give it a safe space to live. And these first 3 steps, this is what we're going to talk about today, are going to show you how to care for what you have, no matter how much you have, so you can welcome more and know what to do with it. Because I'll be honest, my lovies, this has been a huge one for me, because I've had spaces in my business and in my life where I've received windfalls or more money than I needed. And when I'm not organized, both energetically and tactically, I have squandered or just found ways to get rid of that money. And I wonder if that resonates with you, because that's, I think, a big thing that I see with a lot of women is it can be hard to welcome more or welcome your potential with your finances or your income capacity, because there can be a very deep part of you that feels like you can't even handle it. So why would you welcome more? So let's get into these steps. I'm just going to explain what they are and we'll go from there. So step 1 is about tracking your finances. So if we want to overcome any kind of shame around money, we need to get clear about where we are. This is the truth with any problem in our lives. If we want to make a change, whether it's with our finances, our health, our relationship, our home situation, we need to first acknowledge what is not working and what we do not like. And this is usually the part, I would say, with the money work that I teach that can be triggering, to be honest, because I know for me, when I started getting situated financially, or when I even admitted to myself back in 2018 that I wanted to be situated financially, holy moly cannoli. Sitting down to look at what was going on, I had a visceral reaction that was like, please God, no, this is the last thing that I want to do. So money tracking is so powerful, because what money tracking invites you to do is it invites you to get intimate with your money, to see what your money is doing. And the way that I teach this is you invite money in through your income, whether it's through your business, your job, or both, and you see what is the cadence of that money. And what happens a lot is that when my women do this, they're like, oh my God, I want to be making more money. I've never even looked to see, wow, I'm only making this much. So when you actually look, you can be like, oh my God, exciting. I don't like what I see. I want to change it. That's your jumping off point. But you can't change, you can't heal, you can't evolve what you won't acknowledge. And so money tracking helps us to do that. Now, the other aspect of tracking is that we essentially look at our spending too, and not just personal spending, but like our expenses. So if we have a business, we got to get clear and see, okay, what's the cadence of spending through my expenses? What is the cadence of spending through my personal? This brings me to step 2, which is my favorite step, which is all around money management. I teach something called multi-bank account money management. And if your eyes glaze over, this is what I always say. And I've been teaching this stuff for years at this point. And I'm a Manny Gen. So I like to, as you can see, I'm bon voyaging with astrology. Goodbye. I love you. We're evolving the astrology that I'm teaching. But this stuff, like I was telling my mentor the other day, like this stuff is what keeps me in. I love teaching financial tools to women. Like I'm obviously very spiritual and my money placement is in Pisces and it's in the second house of money. So it's like my magnetism and creativity, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, is like Pisces, which is empathetic and spiritual and soft. And then the second house is money and self-worth. I just actually learned that my progressed Venus is in Taurus in the second house. So that's like double Taurian energy. I'll talk about that when I talk about Venus, like what my take on your progressed Venus, because I was thinking, okay, I'm changing so much right now. I'm changing my offers. I'm changing how I do things. I wonder what my Venus is doing in my progressed chart. And holy moly, freaking awesome. Like I'm going to have to do a post about this, or maybe we'll do a whole episode, or we'll do a training in MWMM, something, because it's fascinating to like look at both your natal and your progressed Venus. So we'll talk about that. But the staying power of me teaching these tools is also very Venus and Taurus, honestly, which is so awesome. So step 2 is money management. So once you've tracked and you can see what's going on, this is where you get intimate with money. I want to see, what am I bringing in? What am I putting out? Remember, you can't evolve, heal, and change and call more in of what you won't acknowledge. You've got to focus on it. And that's the magic of it, right? Like even within my membership, it's like when women are having these remarkable experiences, I always say, even though it's called Magical Women in Money, it's not so much magical. The magic is your focus. When you focus on something and apply your energy, you can transform it. Like that's just how it works. So that's the magic. You're the magic. Your focus is the magic. Okay, so with step 2, money management can and will make your dreams come true. Money management can and will make your dreams come true. This is my favorite thing to say. And when I teach the multi-bank account system, I teach this because you need to have a clear, regulated relationship to money. Remember my adage about the garbage on the desk versus the beautiful, clean desk with all the things on it that you love and you like. When you manage out of multiple accounts, like you have a savings account for your prosperity, for your investments, for building surplus, when you have a deposits and allocation account, what that means is this is the account that your money gets deposited into. So if you have a business, all your payment processor payments go in there. If you get a paycheck, then all your paychecks go in there, and then you allocate to your various accounts. So the accounts that I work out of these days, I've evolved the system a little bit more, which I'm excited to teach inside MWMM really soon, because I've basically completely automated this system and made it even easier on myself. I started using something called sinking funds, and that's complete and total money automation, especially for things that I need to pay for in the business and in my personal life. I can explain a little bit about that, but I don't want to get too into the minutia of it. But very simply, the money management system I teach is every bank account that you have, it has a job. And that's all there is to it. You have a job for your money. And the bank account, whatever it says that bank account does, is what it does. So going back to my accounts, I have my deposit and allocation account. I have a taxes account. I have a weekly spending account. I have a personal sinking funds account. I have a business operating expenses account. I have a business operating sinking funds account. And then I send my savings out to a high yield savings account, and that's automated. So that is just to give you an overview of how I manage my money. The way that I teach this because I'm very visual. So that's why I don't want to get too into the weeds, because I'm sure many of you, if you're with me, you're likely very visual too. And the way I teach this stuff is it's very aesthetic and very beautiful. And I love the colors and all the things. So you can simply see how to make this apply to your life. You probably don't need all of those accounts. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It depends where the season of your business. But if you're just starting and you want to get a little more organized, I would just say deposits account. Have a weekly spending account that you spend money out of. Have a personal expenses account that basically is where you pay your rent or your mortgage out of. And then if you have a business, have a separate business account, and then make sure that you have a savings account if I didn't already say that. So it's basically like, I know that sounds like a lot, but when you can clearly see what is going on in your bank accounts, like imagine opening your bank account and being like, okay, the business is operating with this much money right now. My personal account is operating with this much money right now. My weekly spend, which is like your weekly budget, I'm going to talk about that in step 3. That's operating on this account. That's my spending account. I get to spend to my heart's content in that account. And you automate that as well. Step 3 is the weekly spend. This to me is the deepest unlock, because I feel like a lot of women who join my work and who are drawn to me are typically spenders. And then where they go once they've learned my system and started to work with me is they move into the middle. So I like to share the paradigm of like the spender and the saver. So what we want to get to is a nice middle ground where we're not hoarding, which is like the lower expression of the saver, and we're not like just everything's slipping through our fingertips with the spender. And we start to move more into the middle where we circulate money by spending it and enjoying our life and investing in things that we love and investing in ourselves and taking care of ourselves and taking care of others through the money we spend and circulate. And then we also care for our future. You know, the goal is to always have surplus and operate from surplus. That is not always easy for a lot of people, and I get it, especially being a spender, but the system that I teach you is designed to help you live where you have a foundation in your account and a foundation in the way that you relate to money. And your weekly spend, it's almost like, I don't want to say allowance, but it is an allowance essentially. It's a weekly budget, and you have a specific account with a debit card that is your weekly spending account. And that's where you spend your money every week. And in the system that I built, that I teach in MWMM, it essentially, here's what you do. You've got that account and you track it. So I track that account every week or every other week. Now, the thing with the way that I teach money, both in step 1, step 2, step 3, tracking, managing, and weekly spending, the idea is that these are training wheels. And once you have mastered these core steps, then the training wheels come off and you, of course, manage your money, but you may not be needing to get as into the minutia and into the weeds as when you started. And when you were like in there every week or in there every couple of days to make sure that everything's functioning properly. That's, I think, one of the gifts, the deepest blessings of doing financial organization, because essentially you don't want to be thinking about money all the time. And how many of us, through our worry or our shame or our disorganization or our avoidance, actually end up worrying and thinking about money all the time? It's the greatest oxymoron of all time, where it's like, actually, when I care for money, when I build a simple system, I'm not thinking about money all the time because I know that it's taken care of. I know that I have a handle on it. Even if I have debt, that's another thing I'm actually going to add into MWMM soon. Because like I said, I've evolved the system, which I'm so excited to share. You track your debt. You see exactly what is going on with your debt. You see, okay, so if I have a balance of this much, here's what's on it, and here's my plan to pay it off. And you also track the APR and all that good stuff. So I digress just a little bit, but the gift of this work and the gift of getting organized financially is that you are going to feel free. no matter the state of your finances, because you will feel powerful, you will feel empowered, you will feel like you have a handle. And especially if it's not where you want it to be, once you get organized and you show yourself and God, universe and life and money and the energetics of money that you care for it and you're willing to build and source a healthy relationship with it, the gift is the freedom. And whenever I ask my women, like, why do you care about this stuff? Why do you want to learn it? The answer 9.5 times out of 10 is freedom. I want to feel free. And the truth is, freedom is a state of mind. Freedom is a state of energy. And of course, there's things we always want to experience, like no matter your level of income, you can always yearn and want an experience you're not having. However, you also can always look around you and say thank you for exactly how things are right now, even as you're in the progress and process of reaching towards and walking towards what it is that you want with your finances and with your life. And the truth is, you don't even want money. You want the emotions and the outcome that having money can provide. And when you show money that you care for it, it's going to care for you. I say to money every day, thank you for all the things you do for me. And what I mostly say is thank you to all of the people, because money always comes to us through other people, no matter what. It circulates through the hands of humans. And that's that. I say thank you to the people who trusted me enough to flow their currency of energy in my direction. Let me steward it. Let me figure out how to be a better steward, and let me also serve and do better on all levels. And my angels, when you are moving in that level of depth, and I'll be honest, from my fear and shame and BS and programming, it's nobody's fault, my shit over the years, I've not always operated like that. I've mostly operated out a lot of fear and a lot of inadequacy. My 8th house is Leo and Virgo, and one of the biggest shadows of the 8th house having Leo there is the inadequacy, needing to perform and seem like I'm something that I'm not. It's a lot of healing. Money and entrepreneurship specifically, but going for your dreams will make you heal. They'll make you heal, truly. So don't be afraid of what it is that you want, because just like Jen Sincero says in You're a Badass at Making Money, when we connect to the God force, the desires of our life become more clear, or rather, when we connect to our desires, the creative force of the universe, whatever word you like to call it, will course through our life. Because the word desire is desire, of the sire of the father. And again, that's like old school terminology, of course, but it's literally like when you are in your desires, that is God presence seeking to express itself through you. Your desires are not there on accident. So to wrap this up, let's talk a little bit about Venus. Let's talk a little bit about Saturn. So your Venus placement is your magnetism and creativity. When you are embodying your Venus placement, this is where you activate your magnetism and your unique creativity. And my suggestion is to learn the archetype, which is the zodiac sign, as well as the house that your Venus exists in. I teach a training inside of MWMM, how to build your offers with your Venus placement. And I actually use a lot of examples of women in like the online coaching space, many of them my best friends, because I have their charts. And it's cool to see how their Venus placement expresses in their offers. And many of you would be familiar with them, I would imagine. So you can literally look and be like, oh my God, I totally know that Gala makes money in that way, or creates magnetism and creativity in that way of her Venus. I totally know that Hella Weston or Crystal Williams makes money in this way, because I'm familiar with their work. I'm familiar with their energy, their creativity, their magnetism. So it's pretty cool to see. I also use myself as an example because my work is so rooted in my Venus in Pisces in the 2nd house. So I teach money like this. I can't just teach the tactical practical. I love the tactical practical, but I always need the other side of the coin. So your Venus placement is your unlock for your magnetism and your creativity and the value that you provide. Because again, this isn't just like, oh, I make money doing this. It's like, no, let's go 5 layers deeper. The reason you're making money is because you're providing some sort of value or service. And you will find, my angels, that even if you're working a career while you're building your business or you're working a job, oftentimes if it's aligned with your values or the things you're drawn to, it will be an octave of your Venus. It may not be the fullest expression of your Venus, but it will be an octave, an expression of your Venetian energy. And then your ultimate expression, I don't know if you babes are familiar with the term octave, but it's a terminology in music, I believe, and we use it in astrology every so often. The book Love Cards, I don't know where it is right now. I have a book called Love Cards. I believe his name is Robert Hall. But he talks about octaves, planetary octaves, and I love that term. So anyhow, the lower octave of something is just, it's not bad. It's just not your fullest expression. Whereas the higher octave of something, you could say, is more aligned with your soul, more aligned with your deeper purpose, perhaps. That's the way I interpret it. That is not the end all be all. Your Saturnian placement. So this is where you must hold responsibility. So to be persistent throughout your lifetime, because making money, building wealth, getting organized will require a deep level and layer of persistence, patience, process. And your Saturn embodiment shows you how to do that. It's where you need to hold responsibility and accountability. And the house especially shows where you need to get responsible and patient. And as you do that, you will produce really remarkable results over time. We all have a Saturn placement. So getting to know that embodiment of your Venetian and your Saturnian placement, they're very unique to each other. It's actually really special. I'm talking about these as well because I have Venus square Saturn. A square is an aspect in astrology. It's a very hard aspect, actually. So I have Venus in Pisces and then Saturn in Sagittarius. They make a square to one another. And I remember when I learned about that, I was like, oh, that tracks. And I actually read about it and studied about it when I was working in a jewelry store on 3rd Street in Los Angeles. And I was studying aspects one day because I was like, what are all these lines and crazy shapes all over this chart? And when I started to study them, oh my God, it was the next layer and level. And I do teach about those like in the mini course, and I talk about them in MWMM. But very simply, aspects are powerful. And I have Venus square Saturn. So for me, if you angels are familiar with my story, I didn't start to make money and be trusted with money, both by myself and perhaps, by the universe too, until I started to get grounded and responsible. Because having Venus, which is like this pleasure energy, this magnetic creative energy, making a harsh aspect to Saturn, which is about discipline and reality, integrating those two energies together produce potential greatness. But it's very hard to integrate squares. It takes time and process and a lot of hard work, truly. And that's why even for me teaching this stuff, it's a triumph in and of itself because it is such an expression of my Venus square Saturn. Ironically, that also Venus square Saturn has to do with the father. And I actually have a book on my desk right now. It's a journal actually called Healing the Father Wound. So I'm working on that. Many of you are familiar that I'm divorced. I've had a pretty intense journey with men in this life as well. And so that aspect as well is really powerful with that. But Venus and Saturn is like the responsibility also to integrate and heal my sense of receptivity and self-worth, being that it's in this 2nd house. This is very fascinating stuff. So my suggestion to you, my loves, would be study your Venus, get to know your Saturn. These are great adjuncts to the astrological energetic work. And in addition, get going on these steps. You can join me inside of MWMM to work on these steps. And I'll make sure to put the wait list in the show notes. And before we go, I'm also introducing one-to-one money coaching, where I essentially walk you through a 6-session process and I take you through my entire money management system. And we do both the internal work and the external work around up-leveling your relationship and healing your relationship to money and letting the money shame go once and for all because you're financially organized. That will be more geared towards, I'd say, women with businesses and who are very developed in business. If you want to do that same type of thing with me, I'm going to offer the financial glow up challenge again really, really soon. So I'll make sure that we have wait lists and links for all of these great things in the show notes. And also stay tuned with me over on Instagram, and I'll be announcing stuff. I'm especially my email list. If you babes are over on the list, that's usually where I introduce things first and have fun offers and discounts and things like that. The last thing I'll say before we close this up is, healing money shame is very subconscious and nervous system related. It also can be extremely ancestral, where a lot of times we get passed down all of this stuff. Supposedly, I don't have like the scientific backing for this or anything like that, but I did hear this once and it really resonated with me. If anyone knows more, please message me about this. But I did hear that we inherit our mother's nervous systems. And I don't know about you, but that really felt resonant for me on a really big level. And I think in all of my healing over the years, especially I'd say in the last 2 years specifically, since one of my biggest unlocks was sitting in an ayahuasca ceremony by myself. And I'm going to talk about that in a future interview with my babe, Tiffany Hurd. She was actually the one who guided me. But what I will say is in that session, or in that ceremony rather, session, oh my God, it wasn't a session. It was an intense session of my life. It was a powerful ceremony. And I was getting messages from the consciousness of ayahuasca prior. It was really powerful. But that was when I started to really recognize that I was completely cut off from my feminine energy. I was completely cut off from a feeling of safety and receptivity in my feminine polarity, regardless of my gender. But for me being a woman, that's something I've wanted, to feel safe in that, to express it. It's always been hard. And I know for my mama, that's been not the easiest for her either. She didn't really necessarily model that energy to me. She modeled a lot of other remarkable things for me, but she wasn't always the softest. And not to say that's the only feminine trait, but to feel safe in slowness was really not something that she modeled. And that's something that I came to desire, especially as I got older, and it just really wasn't working for me in every area of my life, let alone my marriage or my business. And I share about the ceremony piece because that was where that juncture is really where I started to pay more attention to my nervous system. And in addition, over the years, working with hypnosis, whether I'm doing a session with Leo Max or I'm working nightly with my favorite hypnosis app, which is called HypnoCloud, HYPNO, cloud, like a cloud in the sky. That's also where I've done a lot of reprogramming to feel safe at a subconscious level, to hold more, to stop sabotaging. So this is a pretty packed episode. We've definitely done the gamut. This is how I love to teach about money. Because when we work with the two sides of the coin, the energetic, emotional, astrological, as well as the tactical, practical, and we get organized, we will feel unstoppable and peaceful. And we deserve to feel that. We are worthy. Rather, I'll say you are worthy of feeling and experiencing that. And if you're hearing these words, know that your healing around this or your integration around this or the betterment of this area of your life is already begun, as long as you're willing to show up. If there's willingness, you can do anything. I love you, angels, so much. I'll make sure that my team has all the fun wait lists, whether you want to join me for the one-to-one money coaching, you want to join me for a future financial glow up challenge, or you just want to hop straight on the wait list for my membership, Magical Women in Money. We'll have everything in there for you. This has been an honor. I really hope this episode has benefited you, and I send you big hugs and kisses. I'll see you in the next episode. I love you. Bye-bye.